plus markup basis. Okay, like what is the actual cost of services which are coming to me, which are being provided, and what is the markup that I am paying. In the I say number of cases that we see here, these kinds of services which are provided, which is IT support services or reimbursement, are basically without any markup. But we need to see in the facts of the case whether there is a markup charged, and if there is a markup, possibly I can separately benchmark that markup. I need not do the benchmarking of the base cost.
So you will basically look at overseas comparable in this case.
Yeah, I can do that.
I have to assimilate so much, and then I have to think what I should say. Fine. So we have heard various views, and they are right. I mean, better analysis is always better. Can you do transaction-based analysis, as Mr. Buraki said? Yes, that would be the most preferable thing. But the case study was based on the presumption. It was an assumption, sir and Rohan, that TNMM is the most appropriate method based on the facts and circumstances of the case and as per Rule 10C. That was the assumption. The main reason that this particular presumption was there was that if you have done a segmentation of your profit and loss account based on functional activity, is that correct or is that not correct? And irrespective of the comparables, that would be the next stage. The first thing is that Section 92(1) says that you have to determine the arm's length price. To determine the arm's length price, when you go from transactional net margin method, the way it has been prescribed in Rule 10B, 1E, it would say that from profitability you have to go to price. Because ultimately the nuance of our legislation is that unlike OECD or unlike foreign legislation, which only determine whether you fall within that particular range or not, if you have applied a profit-based method, we go back to price. I think that's the most important part of our legislation. And if you have to go back to price from profitability, then the presumption is that the functional profitability of that particular function is critical, because ultimately you go back to price. So when you take a trading segment and you try and put it onto a manufacturing segment and you try and do a mixed comparability, I would believe that the what you would call the transparency of that benchmarking is at stake, because the manufacturing segment would have its own nuance and would have its own profitability and would have its own problems, and that manufacturing activity problems would also be faced by the comparables. So therefore segmentation is critical. Whether the segmentation can be better, whether turnover is a reasonable filter, reasonable allocation fee to apply for all other costs other than direct cost, is always up for debate. And maybe there are certain costs. So for example, you could probably bifurcate rent on the basis of space, and you can bifurcate HR costs on the basis of number of people, and you can bifurcate IT cost on the number of machines used, that is number of people. There are always that sophistication which is possible. But generally, I believe that the turnover key has been accepted at the tribunal and may be accepted as an impartial key. It's an impartial key. It's not a key which is loaded, in the sense that if you take a turnover key, then you equally apply it to both parts. That's all. Means to both the segments. Before I continue, any comment on this particular portion of segmentation and allocation key? Sir, go on.
I would only say one thing. In transfer pricing, as we arrive at the benchmarking and we arrive at arm's length price, the methods given, the analysis done, the data taken, the computation done, all actually is on an estimate basis. Ultimately, we estimate what is the arm's length price of the international transaction. Many a times there has been a discussion and debate that the transfer pricing is very subjective in nature, and it is art and not an exact science. All those debates have been there. But in the process, what is very important is, be it art, be it subjective, but how scientific we can make it, how objective we can do the analysis should be our target. Therefore, what has been accepted as the allocation key, as sales or other thing, possibly, I wouldn't want to accept it blindfolded, that because it has been accepted in 10 other cases, in the 11th case it should be accepted. I go against. I would say that in the facts of the case, in the analysis, I would want to collect more details, more data, and if there is a possibility of refining the segmentation, I should want to do that. That is my answer.
Reasonable proposition that you should do better analysis. I mean, anything that is better is always acceptable. So now we go to the next stage. I think the important things that I want to just bring out for the participants is that segmentation has been accepted, and the mother case law is UCB India Limited. It was reported in 317 ITR 292. And if you read that case law, it will give you an effect, because after UCB, every other case law has followed that particular proposition. UCB India Private Limited, 317 ITR 292. It's a Bombay Tribunal decision. And I think in Birlasoft, it has been accepted that you don't require audited accounts for the purposes of correct segmentation. But I would still believe that though that is the case law, and even Loomis now, technology, which was decided in the Delhi Tribunal, also says audited accounts are not necessary, but from a perspective of better verification, more holistic nature, a verification by an accountant always adds a little weight. Reasonable proposition, I think it should be acceptable to both the panels. So therefore that is the thing. And why do we believe that segmentation is so critical? The reason being that it is still the income of that international transaction which has to be computed from the arm's length price. So the determination of that arm's length price is so critical, and if that arm's length price is vitiated, then what ultimately happens is not the adjustment that is critical, but you have to remember that the focus of the Income Tax Act, and I think that is critical, is the chargeability of income. And there are plethora of Supreme Court judgments which say that income is never taxable on an estimated basis. So therefore, scientific nature of analysis is predominant written in transfer pricing, whatever may be the economic aspects of transfer pricing. So therefore, you have to determine income. So the exact nature of that income that is to be determined can come about only with better segmentation, better analysis, and probably transaction. The most utopian method would be to do transaction by transaction analysis. Not utopian, the most likely method. So can you do on a transaction to transaction TNMM is something which has not yet been debated in the courts of law or at the tribunal. I think with that we can end this first case study. Last comments from the panelists on any of the propositions that I am trying to put forward.
I think we have covered it.
I shall only say one thing. My concern for the fact that when we go for benchmarking of manufacturing segment exclusively, I said that in the public domain, possibly you may not find a comparable which is 100% into manufacturing. That concern would be there when I only take manufacturing segment and look for the comparables. Of course, in this particular case, it has been stated that comparables are there and comparables have not been disputed, but I think this is utopian and not the benchmarking of each and individual transaction separately.
Sir, I got one question. What is of prime importance in law? Is the prime importance to do first the function, asset and risk analysis of the entity itself and determine the correct profitability to come to the correct arm's length price. So what I am saying is this, that let us presume, just for the sake of discussion, that the import of raw material is the major transaction that needs to be benchmarked. And the others are, in material terms, not that critical. The import of raw materials is critical. If the import of raw materials goes into manufacturing, and I perform a reasonably detailed analysis of that raw material import and determine the profitability of the international transaction by application of a profit-based method, that is transactional net margin method. Is that the critical step, or is comparability the critical step? So I would believe it is like this. First, determine the correct profitability to say that what you have paid for the raw material is reasonable. Then you go to comparability, and in comparability, if the comparables are a little vitiated, what do you do? Would you sacrifice, correct. So what is the proposition? Should the assessee sacrifice reasonable comparison to determine arm's length price for exact comparison to determine arm's length price? Because ultimately income has to be determined. That proposition I think we need to understand, and therefore if necessary, we should debate it for 2 minutes.
See, I believe that ultimately transfer pricing is not something that one can really do scientifically. I'm sure that we can talk about a lot of aspects and approaches which provide a directional similarity. But really to get the same answer is not possible. One has to have a practical approach, and then what are we really trying to do? Are we really trying to say that this is the exact price at which the entity has to transact? That means basically we are taking out the commercial aspect of the entire thing, because no third party would actually transact at one price. So to that extent, we need to have that flexibility and more practical approach to the entire application of transfer pricing. And while we may want to really look at what is ideal, we have to look at what is practical as well.
I just would want to say that in the transfer pricing analysis that I have come across of manufacturing segments or manufacturing companies, I am sure Mr. Pathakekar as well as Mr. Patel will bail me out in what I am saying. How do I select the manufacturing companies? This filter is applied in the database. Any company who has a manufacturing sales more than 75% is considered as a manufacturing company, and that is what I take as for the benchmarking. Coming to the case study, here you have a trading revenue of 40%. For manufacturing segment, which is 100% into manufacturing, I am open to take a comparable which has 25% of revenue of trading. Viewed from this perspective, what would be wrong if I benchmark this particular entity given in the case study on a holistic basis at the entity level, taking the entire profit? Why can't I do, instead of taking a filter of 75% of manufacturing, I can take it 60%, I can take it 50% and look for the comparables. Why can't I do that? And if I do that, possibly I am moving to more realistic approximation. Why should I resist that? If I see this particular case study from this perspective, possibly the reasoning given by the TPO may be held as incorrect, but his actions might be correct. The reasoning that these segments are not audited and therefore I do not accept, that may be wrong. The reason that I am presenting now possibly would be more appropriate, more correct, because I do not have proper comparables. And one has to understand that whatever may be the reasonable profit of the entity, that reasonability is on one side. When I work out the profitability of the tested party, the entity that I am needing to benchmark has to be sacrosanct as much as possible, there is no doubt about it. But there cannot be any compromise on the quality of comparables as well, because the entire philosophy of transfer pricing given in the Income Tax Act as well as in the OECD guidelines revolves around the comparability analysis and comparables. Not so much on the computation of the profits. So therefore, at the cost of comparability, I would not suggest and say that the working out of the profit and going to the approximation there is more acceptable, and then I can sort of compromise on the comparables. Possibly we are going to go in for a result which might not be proper, which may not be acceptable.
Here, sir, I would like to add something to reveal some other dimensions on this particular aspect of comparability. In manufacturing, we are talking about the IT world.
Sorry?
In manufacturing unit, we are talking about the IT world. In the case study, it is clearly given by them that IT costs are more concerned or related to the manufacturing. Normally, it is not so, but it is given. Now, if we go ahead with that assumption, possibly that manufacturing unit, assessing what we are talking about, is more about the CNC machines or automation. Could be. And the other comparison, you are looking for 75% to 60%. You want to go to that extent, right? But there could be some other dimensions to it for more accuracy, and those dimensions may not be available in the public domain. There is always the approximation in the comparison. What I mean?
Yes, have you completed? I do not disagree with you at all. I am only trying to say that if we meet on one horizon, and that is to improve the quality of benchmarking, then any aberration, any approximation to the extent possible are required to be reduced. Right? What I am trying to say that on one side, whereas I started with the acceptance that yes, segmented analysis refined properly are acceptable, no issues on that. But that is the acceptance of the manufacturing segment's result of the SSA. For that result, I need to find out a comparable. Accepting this result does not mean the comparability, perfection in the comparability. If I find tomorrow that I go to the public domain and I find that pertaining to the manufacturing segment that I have no comparable available, what do? At the end of the day, you read rule 10b, which is given all the 5 methods. All methods talk about comparables. I work out the profitability, that is the first, that is 10b1, E1, that working of the profit. The remaining 4 which are given talk about the comparability. If I do not have, how do I apply that method?
So I think that the proposition is that comparability is critical, that there is no doubt, because that is given in the definition of arm's length price under section 92F small 2. So I would believe that you would get comparables for manufacturing if you were to give the search filter of 90%. That is my belief. I may be wrong. Sometimes in analysis, we have got those comparables, sometimes we may not get. So based on comparables, my worry is that when you use mixed comparability, that means you use trading and manufacturing, is it fair to determine the price of a product which is only used in manufacturing? I don't think there is an answer available in law for that. What I am saying is, when you use mixed comparability, is it reasonable to say that you have fulfilled the provisions of section 92(1) to determine the correct price of the international transaction? Because that manufacturing cost of raw material is vitiated now by trading profit. That's my only worry. That is my worry. I'm just trying to put the worry before you. So that is where the balance is required. And I would agree with sir that ultimately comparability is critical. But I think before comparability, also determination of correct profitability to determine correct price is also equally important.
Yeah.
Okay. So now we go to the next case.
See, in your last comment, if there would not have been an import transaction,
Correct.
what sir has said would be better proposition.
So then what are you trying to benchmark if there is no
No,
import
suppose there is
transaction?
no import transaction, there is a sales transaction and there are two services transactions.
Yeah, but the sales is of what?
Trading is there.
No, but sales is of what? Manufacturing?
Sales to A.
But of what?
Manufacturing, yes.
So then again you are saying, what we are saying is, that to determine the profitability of that sales transaction, because you are going by P&M,
Right.
and then to arrive at that price, the sales transaction of manufacturing, can it be vitiated by trading profit? That is my question. That's my question. That's all. Excuse me. Yeah, AC. Okay. Go on.
Yes.
We'll go to the next case study. I think the proposition in the next case study is like this. And the proposition is that there is a service provider in the information technology sector, and it services both AEs and it services domestic clients. But the important thing is that it is in a ramping up phase. So because it is in a ramping up phase, it has got underutilized capacity. That is the first proposition. And the second proposition is that its workforce, because it is underutilized, and because it is trying to pierce the marketplace and do work for domestic clients and for AEs, and it is trying to ramp up its business model, it is not able to utilize its workforce to its optimum level, so there is a lot of bench cost. So the case study is not going to get into the nitty-gritty, it's on the philosophy. So the philosophy of the question before us is this, or the proposition is this, that when I determine my profitability for the purposes of application of transactional net margin method, there is a presumption that TNM is the most appropriate method, so let us not debate on whether other methods are applicable or not. The proposition is this, that when I determine my profitability, does the transfer pricing legislation not require for me to determine my correct profitability? And therefore, to determine my correct profitability, have I not to make adjustments to my profitability for the underutilization of capacity and underutilization of my bench, of my workforce? So to put it differently, I will now cast the same question from a business perspective. Suppose an assessee has got 100 lathe machines in his factory. only 10 lathe machines are producing 100 units a day. When he prices his product and he asks his consumers to pay or his customers to pay, will they pay him for the utilization and the depreciation and the cost of infrastructure for 2 machines, or will they pay him for also not utilizing the balance 98 machines? So now I'll put another proposition. Now think, let's think. I think we just have to exchange ideas over here, that's it. So the proposition is like this. No customer in the world pays for your inefficiency. Otherwise, if you try and price your product, you will have to lock your factory. That proposition is reasonable. So therefore, if you have to lock your factory, what will you do? You will try and price your product on the basis of your cost which you have incurred for the purposes of sale. So the profitability that has to be determined is not the financial profitability that is reflected in Schedule 6. In transfer pricing, you are supposed to find out the profitability of the international transaction. Does not Rule 10b 1e subclause 1 say, find out the profitability of the international transaction. It does not say profitability of the entity, of the segment, or of the A segment or non-A segment or functional segment. So this is the proposition for us to debate, friends. That when I go and determine the profitability of my international transaction for the purposes of application of a profit-based method, does the law tie me down, or does the law have the leverage that I should adjust my profit for such underutilization of capacity and underutilization of workforce? That's the proposition for the panel. Thanks. Rohan.
Thank you, SP. Well, I think let me mention that very clearly, of course, it is required that the profitability has to be computed for the taxpayer. But interestingly, also the provisions of the law, actually in terms of the Rule 10b(e)(3, requires appropriate adjustments to comparable uncontrolled transactions. Now that is where the challenge lies, because you can do whatever adjustment that you want for the taxpayer, because there are a lot of details that are available. But practically again, you will not be able to make similar adjustments to the comparable companies. And that is the reason why I believe that in this particular case study, the TPO has said that since the adjustment is not available for the comparable companies in the public domain, that is why he is not allowing it. Technically, he is correct to my mind, because as Mr. said, that although you have to look at profitability and which you can determine for the taxpayer, to determine or make such adjustments to the comparable companies is practically not possible, because the data is not available in the public domain. So technically the TPO probably is right, but again I come back to what I said earlier, is that if we really go strictly by what the law says, you will end up really asking questions and looking at each other to say that how do we really then benchmark. So many times companies come to us and say that we do so many unique things and we are not comparable, or comparables don't exist, our comparables don't exist. Then what do you want to say, that you can't really adhere to the law, you want the revenue to come and do the adjustment yourself? You will have to find a way to really do it. And to my mind, in that sense, you have to look at making adjustments to yourself, and to that extent, that's how you will basically be able, because you will not be able to make those adjustments to the comparable, to that extent. Now in this particular company, as I said, this case study, I would feel that technically the TPO is correct in what he has done. Also, this particular company, MNC India, in terms of its FAR analysis, is more entrepreneurial in nature, because it's taking risks, it's selling to both Indian customers as well as to the overseas AE, and is not really a kind of captive service provider. To that extent of their proposition,